Yeah, that doesn't
All
seem sad
rise.
to.
The District Court of San Andreas is now in session. The Honorable Judge York presiding.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. First of all, I'd just like to let everyone know that today's court is being recorded, not just visually, but all audio as well, just to let you know. I'd also like to send warmest thoughts to the public defender, Miss Patterson, who is currently in ICU. I'd like to thank Mr. Hunt for stepping in at late notice, and I'd also like to thank Mr. Haugensen for also stepping in at late notice to cover for Mr. Blackstone. So please bear with us today as we get through this with the utmost respect for everybody. No arguing, of course. Everything will be done above board. We will give time for each other to have objections and rebuttals and motions, all that good stuff. Court is now in session. This is the State of San Andreas versus Hank Anderson. This is case 21-17196. Mr. Haugensen, are your witnesses Mr. Lay and Mr. Peralta here today?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm right
Fantastic.
here.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Just double checking. Mr. Hunt, I see that Mr. Anderson is here. Perfect. I know we had no time for pre-trial. I do believe that this can be hashed out in the court. I don't believe that we need anything else. All right, Mr. Haugensen, would you like to begin?
Yes, Your Honor. The charges are PC 2232, assault on a public servant, PC 2309, felony evading law enforcement vehicle, and PC 3202, possession of a stolen vehicle.
Mr. Hunt, how does your client plead?
Not guilty to all charges, Your Honor.
All right, then we will continue with the trial. Mr. Haugensen, the floor is yours.
I have no opening statement, Your Honor.
Wonderful. Mr. Hunt, would you like to make an...
I do not either, but it was brought to my knowledge by Mr. Anderson, as I haven't had the chance to fully look over the case, that there was a pending motion on the docket. I was just wondering what the ruling was on that motion.
Unfortunately, because Ms. Patterson is not here, I would rather have everything done within this court case. I'm also taking over for Judge Castillo. So we're all standing in places that we weren't assigned, but here we are. So let's just do it all within the court case itself.
Okay. All right. Understood.
With no opening statements then, Mr. Haugensen, if you'd like to call your witnesses.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to call Officer Peralta, the arresting officer.
Hello, sir. If you would, go ahead and raise both hands for me. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I absolutely do.
All right. Go ahead and stand to the right of the judge there.
Yeah, just in between the chairs. You should see a small microphone right there on your left. Wonderful. All right, Mr. Haugensen.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yes, of course.
Officer Peralta, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty swell, son. I'm doing pretty swell.
Yep. Your Honor?
Yes, what's up?
Is it at all possible for us to have just a quick 5-minute recess just so I have a moment to talk with Mr. Anderson?
Right now?
Yes, as I didn't have the opportunity to discuss before the trial.
Actually, I'm going to ask for a sidebar with both Mr. Haugensen and Mr. Hunt for 1 second in my office, if you don't mind, really quickly.
We'll be right back, Officer. Come on.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, mate.
You're good.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
What?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go ahead. I'm not stopping.
No, you're not.
I thought right sent me that message.
Nope.
All right, if you can follow me quickly.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to take a very quick 5-minute only on the timer. 5 minutes. Just please be aware that we're all stepping into shoes that we originally were not allocated. So thank you so much for your patience.
Do you come here often?
We're good?
We're yelling at.
You're so loud.
1 minute.
Be quiet up there in the front row.
Hey, come here. Let me search you, please. Boy, boy.
All rise. The District Court of San Andreas is back in session. Judge York still presiding.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. You may be seated. We are going to pick up where we left off, calling Mr. Peralta to the stand again, please.
For the record, I believe Mr. Peralta is still under oath.
I believe so. So you are still under oath. Make sure you stand up nice and close to the microphone.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Mr. Haugensen, the floor is yours.
Permission to reapproach, Your Honor.
Yeah, of course.
Officer Peralta.
Yes.
We've established you're having a good day, so that's good. Okay, were you on the 14th of the 9th, 2021, the arresting officer of the defendant, Mr. Hank Anderson?
Absolutely.
Okay. Was it right you were responding to a vehicle theft in progress call?
Yes.
Did that come through your dispatch?
Yes, that came through the dispatch system.
Okay, so what if you took down the information, the plate number, vehicle make and model, correct?
Yes.
And you stated previously that you started in code 6, which is what exactly?
It basically means that I'm searching the area.
Okay. Did you find the vehicle in question?
Yes.
Was that vehicle being driven?
Yes.
Can you tell me by who?
Yes, it was that man over there. Mr. Anderson, I believe.
Okay. So Mr. Anderson was driving vehicle. Did this
Yes.
vehicle belong to Mr. Anderson?
No, it did not.
Can you remember the vehicle? Make and model?
If I remember correctly, this was a while ago. It was a black and colored off-road truck.
Okay.
I don't remember much of the actual make or model.
Okay, that's no worry. So once you spotted the defendant in the vehicle, did you attempt to pull the vehicle over?
Yes, I activated my lights, drove behind, flashed the siren a couple times, and the vehicle failed to yield.
Okay, so you, by using the vehicle, stated that you wanted the vehicle he was driving to pull over.
Yes.
Oh, right. That text wasn't for you. Don't look at.
And did
You
the
didn't send
vehicle
me a
pull over?
text.
Okay, good.
No, it did not.
But now I'm curious.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay, let's go round about this a little way. Once the defendant was in custody, how did you identify him?
In custody, we identify him through fingerprint.
Okay. Did you also search the client, the defendant? Sorry.
Yes, we did.
And the contents of his pockets would be Exhibit A1 and A2, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So you saw. I know this is asked and answered. This is me putting it straight in my head. I'm not actually answering the question right now. You saw Mr. Anderson in possession of a stolen vehicle, and he evaded you when you tried to pull him over. Okay. So that's where we are at the minute. What I want to talk about is the assault on a public servant. So I believe that once the vehicle was eventually stopped, he tried to resist arrest. Would that be correct?
Yes, he resisted arrest.
And did he attack you?
Yes, he attacked me.
In what way? With closed fist?
Yes, it was a closed fist in the water.
In the water.
Yes.
And I see you stated that you used physical force to stop him in the water. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Also states that you used your taser.
Yes.
Can you tell me when that was?
That was just shortly. That was when he jumped out of the vehicle on the way down to Mount Chiliad. He then began to run. I pre-warned him, "Stop! You'll get tased. Stop! You'll get tased." He failed to stop. I discharged my taser.
Okay, so you discharged your taser at a fleeing suspect with due warning.
Yes.
Okay. Can I just point out that you did not use your taser whilst in the water, correct?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So that's all three charges covered. No further questions, Ron.
All right, Mr. Hunt.
Good afternoon, sir.
How'd he do?
Not too bad. And just for clarity, he was tased 2 times, right?
If I recall, yes.
Once he was tased off the mountain, and then once near the water, right?
I don't recall near the water.
Right. Okay. So you'd agree that this incident occurred a couple weeks ago, is it?
Yes.
A couple weeks ago. So you'd agree that you may not remember all of the details of the events, right?
Correct.
You'd agree that through the evidence, there's no evidence of a stolen vehicle, right? You never actually took a physical photo of the vehicle that was used.
I personally didn't take the photo, no.
Right, but you would agree that you took a picture of the phone call,
What phone call?
of the 911 call.
Oh, the dispatch.
Yes, sir.
I don't recall taking a picture of the dispatch.
Okay, so it was not you who took a picture of the 911 call.
No.
Okay, and I can see that you're a member of the Los Santos Police Department.
Yes.
And you'd agree that when you're alleging this assault occurred, the defendant was in the water at the time, right?
Correct.
You'd agree that when you're swimming in the water, you're somewhat looking forward, ahead of you, right?
Correct.
You'd also agree that in the water, at least in most waters, it's not a very clear sight, right? It's pretty hard to see at some points.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant?
Your rebuttal, sir?
Your Honor, I'm simply apologies, establishing the conditions of which the officer is alleging the assault occurred.
I'm going to let the line of questioning continue for now. So you may proceed.
So you'd agree that underwater it's somewhat hard to see at points, right?
I agree in certain parts of water, yes.
Right. And sorry, just for clarity, when did this incident actually occur? Do you recall?
The assault? It was at the very end of the pursuit.
No, sorry, the whole incident. Was
Oh,
it weeks ago or?
Yes.
Could you estimate maybe a little?
Objection, Your
better
Honor.
date?
I stated at the beginning when this was.
Officer, do you have a copy? Have you read over your incident report before coming to court?
Your Honor, I had no idea it was today. I only found out 20
Oh.
minutes pre-trial.
Gosh, wow. Okay. So I do believe that Mr. Haugensen did at the very beginning state, so September 14th. So let's continue on from this line of questioning.
And don't worry, sir. We're all here by surprise, so don't worry. I'll do my best to not go too far with you. And just to describe the conditions in which the alleged assault actually occurred, could you describe that a little more?
Yep, if I recall correctly.
Objection, Your Honor. Narrative.
Can you ask a more direct question, please, Mr. Hunt?
Sure. Sir, can you describe how the assault occurred?
Objection, Your Honor. Narrative.
Well, we don't know how the assault happened. So we haven't heard that yet in testimony. And he was the officer that the incident happened between the two of them. So if you would answer the question, please, officer.
Yep. Yep, we were in the water swimming. It was towards the end of the pursuit. We were yelling for him to stop, just give himself up. It was then he turned around and swung at me. At that time, me and my other trooper at the time, we both used physical force to put an end to the threat.
Okay, and do you by chance have a copy of the criminal code?
Not on me, no.
Okay, could I perhaps get you a copy?
Sure.
Also, he was state police 27, I think.
Here you go, sir.
Thank you,
Just let
sir.
me know once you've had the opportunity to take a look at that.
Is there something in particular you want him to look at rather than the whole criminal code?
Yes, Your Honor. I just want to make sure that he can see it, and then I was going to direct his attention to a certain location.
Okay, all right.
That'll be the penal code, correct?
Yes.
All right, what am I looking for?
Okay. If you can direct your attention to assault on a public servant.
Yep.
You'd agree that this is the charge that the defendant is being charged with, right?
That is the law, yep.
Sure. You'd agree that I guess you could say, description of the charge is a threat or action of bodily harm coupled with an apparent present ability to cause the harm and does so intentionally. In the case where a threat is made against a group, only one charge will be presented. Would you agree
Yeah.
that that's how it's listed? Okay. If you can take a look, there is just a section off to the right, and it states that it has to apply to...
Objection, Your Honor. Arguing the law.
Your Honor, I'm simply asking the officer to state what it says in the criminal code. I'm not asking him to make any arguments with regard to it.
Your Honor, the defense is trying to say that
I understand.
they don't count as...
I understand.
It's a note.
Yes. You can make your point, but I will be ruling on it, Mr. Hunt.
Surely, Your Honor, yeah.
Continue, just so that the court can hear.
Okay, so you see it says any active employee, and then it has a couple of abbreviated terms, right?
Correct.
Can you read out that full note?
Any active employee of the SASO, SAMS, FIB, LSFD, SADCR, or the DOJ.
Right, so you'd agree that the SASO is the San Andreas Sheriff's Office, is that correct?
That's correct.
You'd agree that the SAMS is the San Andreas Marshal Service.
Correct.
You'd agree that the FIB is the Federal Investigation Bureau.
Correct.
You'd agree that the LSFD is the Los Santos Fire Department.
Correct.
You'd agree that the SADCR is the San Andreas Department Corrections and Rehabilitation, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And you'd agree that the DOJ is the Department of Justice.
Correct.
You'd agree that you're a member of the Los Santos Police Department.
That is correct.
You'd agree that the Los Santos Police Department is not listed inside of that, correct?
Well, I don't see it there.
Right. So you'd agree that it's not listed there, right?
Correct, it's not listed there.
And just for clarification, you'd agree that you never actually took any evidence photos of the stolen vehicle, right?
I personally did not know.
The only evidence photos you took were the search, I believe.
That's correct.
Earlier, you spoke about the charge of resisting, that he was resisting arrest. You'd agree that in this case, the defendant is not being charged with resisting arrest, right?
I don't believe that's part of the charges. I could be wrong, though.
If I could have one moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Okay, you want to go back to that a little bit? Okay, and just for clarification, in the water, was there, like, did you actually throw a swing at him? Okay, so you never actually threw a swing at him? That's not going to backfire on me if I ask, right? Okay. All right, because I'm going to ask if it backfires, it might be bad for our case.
All right, Mr. Hunt, we need to continue.
Sure. Officer, just for clarification, how long have you been with the LSPD for?
I transferred from DPS just a little over a week ago.
So you'd agree at the time of the incident you were part of the San Andreas State Police?
That's correct.
And just for clarification, the San Andreas State Police is also not listed under the abbreviated terms, right?
Correct.
And in the water, just to go back to that a little more, you'd agree that he actually never threw a punch at you per se, right?
Oh, no, he was throwing punches.
So you're stating he what?
He was throwing punches, yes.
And when you're saying punches, are you implying that there was more than one?
Well, he threw one at me.
And that was while he was swimming, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Haugensen, was there a question you wanted to clarify or something?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going?
I'm going to leave whether you're a public servant or not out of this because you clearly are. Were you assaulted by this man?
Yes.
Did you see him in a stolen car?
Yes.
Did you see him driving the stolen car?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peralta. You are able to be seated.
Your Honor, if I may
Your
ask just one final brief question.
That's not how it worked.
Yeah.
Sorry, objection.
That's all right, Your Honor, if I can. I'm just wondering.
No, let's move on, gentlemen. Sorry, Mr. Peralta. Yeah.
Oh.
Parkour. All right, Mr. Haugensen, your second witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'd like to call... Apologies.
Mr.
Officer
Lays.
Lays.
There
Yes,
we
please.
go.
Good luck, son.
Mr. Lays, if you'd come up the front to your left, please.
Hello, Trooper.
Hello.
If you would go ahead and raise both hands for me. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead and have a station right up there next to the judge.
If you step forward, you should see a little microphone just right there. Fantastic. All right, Mr. Haugensen, you may proceed.
Permission to approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Officer Lays, good afternoon / evening. How are you doing today?
Not too bad.
Good. Okay. So you were an assisting officer in this case and eventual arrest, correct?
That is correct.
Alrighty. So you saw the car that was stolen being driven, it looks like, all over the place up north. Is that right?
That is correct.
Can you tell me where you saw this car being driven?
When I first seen Mr. Anderson, he was driving on the railroad tracks, parallel to North Freeway.
Okay, were you driving a vehicle at the time?
Yes, I was in my marked state police vehicle.
And did you clearly see the defendant driving?
At first I didn't, but I did see him later on, yes.
Okay. You stated in your statement that the vehicle slid down to a mountainside and came to a rest. Then the defendant, Mr. Anderson, started to flee on foot down the mountain towards the Alamo Sea. Does that sound correct?
That is correct.
He went swimming in the Alamo Sea, and you stayed in your vehicle at that point, correct?
Yes, I was in my vehicle the whole entire time.
Okay. Could you see everything unfold from your vehicle clearly?
Not everything. Like when he was swimming, I didn't see that. I only seen mostly the driving and him running on foot.
Okay. You did state he was eventually caught near Grapeseed after he attacked officers in the water. Did you actually see that?
I did not physically see him attack him, no. But I heard it was radioed over he was attacking in the water.
Okay, so you heard the officers talking on the radio that he was attacking. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. And you also stated he was given medical for his injuries as well.
Yes, once he was taken out of the water, we did perform medical on him.
Okay, so mainly you saw him visually driving the stolen vehicle that you were all chasing.
That is correct.
Okay, no further questions.
Mr. Hunt?
Good afternoon, Trooper Lays, right?
Yes, sir.
You'd agree that you were an assisting officer, right? So you responded after a couple of minutes after request for assistance?
That is correct. I was assisting.
You'd agree that you stated on your direct examination that you saw that the car was stolen, right?
Did I see that it was stolen? I was responding to Officer Peralta with his dispatch call of a stolen vehicle.
Okay. And you were on the scene. You'd agree that at some points you saw the vehicle, right?
Yes, I saw the vehicle.
And you'd agree that you never actually ran the plate of the vehicle on your mobile data terminal, right?
No, I didn't. Not at the time when we were chasing him.
To your knowledge, well, at any point did you?
No.
And to your knowledge, did any officer run the plate of the vehicle on their MDT?
To my knowledge, no.
And you'd agree that that's a pretty crucial step in determining whether a vehicle is or isn't stolen, right?
Yes.
You'd agree that when a vehicle is stolen, you can see who it was stolen by, right? Or not stolen by, sorry, stolen from, right?
Yes, the dispatch call gives you the information.
At any point in your, sorry, and just for clarity, how long have you been a law enforcement officer for?
I would say about 2 months.
Fair enough. And at any point during your tenure as a police officer, have you arrested somebody for possession of a stolen vehicle without running the plate of the vehicle?
No.
Right. You'd agree it's a pretty standard thing to do, right?
Yes.
And just for clarity, you'd agree that you didn't see anyone being attacked on the water, right?
No, I was still on the roadway when that happened.
Right. You simply heard an officer say it over the radio, right?
That is correct.
Thank you, Trooper Lays. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Mr. Haugensen, did you have a
Yes, Your Honor.
redirecting question?
Trooper Lace, sorry I called you officer earlier. Were you the arresting officer?
No, I was not.
Is it usual for an assisting officer to run the plates as well?
I typically don't do that unless I'm asked to by the arresting officer.
Okay, so that's usually left to the arresting officer to do, correct?
Yep.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you, Trooper, for your time. You may be seated.
Okay.
Mr. Haugensen, is there anything else or anyone else?
There's no one else, Your Honor.
Does the prosecution rest at this time?
It does, Your Honor, sorry.
That's fine, thank you. Mr. Hunt?
1 moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
I got a defense stress.
All right, let's move forward to closing statements, and then we will adjourn for a second after that. Mr. Haugensen, the floor is yours for your closing statement.
Before I start my closing statement, I want to apologize. This is being done on the fly.
We
Okay.
all understand. Let the improv begin.
Uh-huh. I will do my best. Okay. Today, we've heard about 3 charges. Assault on a public servant, which, being a public servant for these 2 members of law enforcement in this city, is not in question. We heard from one of the officers who was assaulted. He said he was assaulted, and in testimony said he was assaulted. The felony evading law enforcement, we have heard from both officers, and one officer and a trooper. stating that the defendant, Mr. Hank Anderson, was driving the vehicle that evaded law enforcement. And then last but not least, we have possession of a stolen vehicle. The arresting officer, Mr. Peralta, stated that he received the 911 call with the description and the plate, or the description, sorry. He then found the vehicle being driven by the defendant, tried to pull him over, and he ran. Why would he run? If he's not doing anything wrong, if he hasn't stolen the vehicle, why would he run? There is no reason to. After this, a chase involving multiple units, we've heard from 2 of them today, and seems like a run down a hill and a short fist fight in the water. We have the defendant here in court today, Mr. Hank Anderson. These officers have no reason to lie. Officer Peralta has said he was assaulted by this man. Both officers saw him driving the car, eluding police to the point of having his wheels shot out. And Officer Peralta has stated that this was the stolen vehicle. I can't see how you can plead not guilty to something like this. We have proved he's guilty beyond all doubt.
Thank you, Mr. Haugensen. Well done. Mr. Hunt, closing statement.
Counsel, may it please the court?
Yes.
There's a couple of things that I did want to address in my closing. First of all, mentioning with regard to the public servant. I recognize the prosecutor stated in his closing that it's not necessarily up for debate. However, we would say that we're still asking the court to determine whether or not those law enforcement officers follow under that law, as they're not listed under that law. Furthermore, to talk about the evidence. In the evidence for this case, you've heard an officer say that he was responding to a 911 call. What we haven't seen is the fact that, was the vehicle actually stolen? Why did the officers not run the vehicle's plates in their system? You heard Trooper Lays say today that that's a crucial step in determining whether or not a car is stolen. It tells you who it was stolen from. Beyond a reasonable doubt is the highest standard in the state, the highest standard in the country. We'd assert to this court that a simple statement, without actually having evidence to back that statement, is not beyond a reasonable doubt. Furthermore, with regard to inside the water, you heard the officer state apologies today that this was a long time ago. This was a couple weeks ago. He does not remember everything that had occurred during the incident. Some parts maybe are a little faded away. Through the testimony and evidence that you've heard today, we do not believe that the state has fulfilled its burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt with everything that is missing from this case. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking a 5-minute recess. If you need a butterscotch candy, I do believe that officer at the back on your left has got a pocket full of them. We'll be right back.
Rise, the District Court of San Andreas is back in session. The Honorable Judge York still presiding.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. I will be going through the charges one by one. I'm going to start with the most fun charge, PC 2232, assault on a public servant. First of all, I would like to thank Ms. Patterson and, of course, Mr. Hunt, who took over here, for bringing to the attention of the court the outdated note on the side of the actual law. However, the law itself is called assault on a public servant, and even though we all know that the sheriff's office has gone through changes in the last 2 to 3 weeks, these gentlemen and ladies that serve our fine state were rebranded. And again, I thank the defence for bringing it to our attention that the note on the side will be changed. However, the law will not be changed. So in regards to assault on a public servant, Mr. Hank Anderson, I do find you guilty. Let's look at the next one. Possession of a stolen vehicle, PC 3202. In evidence, we have a dispatch call stating the car that was taken, the type of car that was taken, and where it was taken from. We have witness testimony stated that Mr. Hank Anderson was indeed seen in the vehicle, even though we may have heard that Mr. Peralta cannot remember, since this is nearly 3 weeks old, exactly the make and brand. It does clearly say in his testimony that he saw Mr. Anderson, I feel like I'm in the Matrix, that he saw Mr. Anderson in the vehicle that was in the dispatch call at the time. I understand that photographic evidence was not taken on scene, and I do believe this is usual practice for any police officer, for any LEO. However, combined with the fact that Mr. Anderson was unwilling in an active chase to not pull over, it only turned our reasonable suspicion into a probable cause at that time. So in regard to possession of a stolen vehicle, Mr. Anderson, you are found guilty. And lastly, PC 2309, felony evading law enforcement in a vehicle. This was evident by both individuals who gave witness testimony that Mr. Anderson indeed was driving recklessly, evading once lights and sirens. Not only that, he fled on foot. There is no charge from that, and he fled by sea. There is no charge for that. So in regard to felony evading law enforcement in a vehicle, Mr. Anderson, you are found guilty. I do want to thank everyone for being here today, Mr. Haugensen, Mr. Hunt for stepping in at absolute late notice. I appreciate everyone for being here, Ms. Frieger for recording. Ladies and gentlemen, court is adjourned.